Hello, and welcome to episode 14 of the Guarneri podcast. Today, we are going to talk about the foundation, the base, that which we build everything upon. And that involves having a strong sense of identity, which is crucial for mental health. It's the foundation upon which we build our lives, and it provides a sense of purpose and direction. With a solid sense of self, we're more confident, resilient, and better able to cope with the challenges that are thrown our way, right? Without that solid foundation, we could feel lost, uncertain about who we are and what we want out of life, which is a horrible feeling. And all this can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, and a sense of being unfulfilled. So, the big thing is to know it is essential, vital, absolutely essential to have a clear understanding of your values, beliefs, cultural heritage in order to develop a strong sense of identity, and i.e., a strong foundation. You need to have that strong foundation. And if you haven't figured out already, you need a strong foundation. Just like a block or Lego tower that we built when we were kids, the more you build up on it and add things on, if you have a shaky foundation, everything's gonna come collapsing down at some point. It's inevitable. You need that strong foundation. So it's the same thing with our personal foundation. We can learn and execute all of these great mental health and spiritual practices to treat anxiety and depression. But if it's not built on a solid foundation, this too can topple over. And, there's no point in going through those exercises and wasting your time if it's all going to come crashing down on you. So, how do we build that strong foundation? Well, there's three things that I think are vitally important that I've come up with and that I've done for myself. And the practices I've layered on, Celtic practices, starting to get into occult practices and whatnot. And I've had no problems after having built this strong base for myself. So, cultural heritage plays a significant role in our sense of identity, right? It's who we are. So, it's important for us to explore our cultural heritage, the traditions and practices, um, as they can help us to connect with our roots and and understand who we are. Who are we? That's where it comes from, your roots. So I stress again that it's vital to have a strong foundation to build our spiritual practices on in order to level up our minds and improve our mental health. So these are three right now methods that I use to build up that foundation. One is know your ancestral roots. Many spiritual practices incorporate rituals and beliefs that are tied to a specific cultural identity. Knowing your cultural background, individuals can explore and connect with these practices in a more authentic and meaningful way. And that's huge. I'm like 20%, something like that, Irish, but identify with the culture. I identify with the Celtic culture, which is kind of why that was my first jumping off point. And exploring those traditions, exploring those practices on top of my strong foundation of knowing who these people that I descend from in Ireland, who they were and what they did, and the best I could figure out what they were like and what their hopes and dreams might have been. So that's a huge thing is knowing who you are, is knowing where you came from, knowing that ancestry information. If you're unable to learn about your ancestry for various reasons, people can't, adoption or otherwise, you could still try to through DNA testing. And I'm not talking about trying to figure out who your mother or father is. I'm talking about just trying to figure out your what's called your admixture. The makeup of what you are. Either your 15% Irish and 35% Italian and whatever else. But that can give you an idea of what general cultures to kind of look at if you want to be authentic. And honestly, yes, blood family is important, but adoptive parents are just as important, if not more. And just because you're not blood relatives, it doesn't mean the culture they came from isn't for you. They raised you, they taught you, you know, you're part of them, so you're still part of their ancestors. At least that's my opinion. So, the second thing you can do to build a strong foundation, and I'm serious about this. Don't think I'm trying to be a wacky or woo woo or anything like that because I'm not. That's to set up an altar. I couldn't believe how much this helped me. So, an altar is a sacred space that you can use for a variety of different spiritual practices, including meditation, prayer, introspection. And I can just go there and sit there for a few minutes and think, and I feel connected to who I am. Because everything on the table is where I came from or somehow about me or my ancestors. So your altar can be a physical representation of your intentions, beliefs, and values. Um, I will leave the link in the description, but I have a whole YouTube video about my altar. I show how I set it up and why I put the different things on it that I did. And it'd be pretty cool if you want to look at it to kind of get an idea. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be extremely simple. It could be a little something on a shelf. It doesn't have to be like this huge altar. We think of like a church altar or something like that. And the altar is just a great tool. It's very powerful for self discovery and personal growth. And I interviewed a gentleman over a year ago named Philip Cargam. Philip was the longtime chief of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. And I asked him about, well, what if you can't have a physical altar in your house? What if the other people in your house would frown upon it or whatever else? He said, well, you always want to try to have the physical altar if you can, or at least have one up temporarily just to kind of get it in your mind. But then you don't need that physical altar. You could always go to that altar in your mind, envision it, feel like you're sitting in front of it, and go from there. As long as you've done it a little bit in real life to get that feeling and to know what's going on and be at that physical altar, I agree with him. I think you can surely just use the altar in your mind for any spiritual or meditative practices. Right. In case so you don't think I'm even more wackier and dead serious about this too. My third way of learning about yourself to build that foundation, to build everything else upon, is divination. Now, many people are confused by divination. They think it's, reading the future, telling the future, fortune tellers, stuff like that. Well, that's only one aspect of divination. So, so divination means to know the unknown divine information, to know what is unknown. And the div part of it means coming from from God or spiritual or the cosmos. And people interpret that as to know the unknown, meaning, well, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or in 3 weeks. And if I know it, therefore, if I can learn it through a method, it's divination. But it doesn't have to be something happening in the future with divinity. It could be just knowing something unknown about yourself. And that's how I use divination. I don't really believe in the fortune telling or seeing the future. I believe in using divination as a method, as a tool to better understand yourself. And I find it works quite well. There's different tools you can use for divination. You can use tarot, runes, astrology, ogham, Yeah, that's just a few of many, many you could use. Tarot is probably the most popular of them, and it's not woo-woo or frou-frou. Trust me, I wouldn't do it if it was. And even when I did do it to try to learn about myself, I was skeptic in the beginning. I was very skeptical. You know, it couldn't be. But what these cards do is they put ideas in your mind. It's almost like journal prompts that bring up something from your subconscious or from your memory and let you deal with it. It's very cathartic. Some people say, "Oh, I pull a card every day and to find out, what I need to know for the day." Well, that isn't the card, in my opinion, telling you the future of what's going to happen during the day. To me, you know what's going to happen during the day for the most part. That card is letting you bring out your feelings about the things you have to do during the day so you can tackle them, so you can confront them head on and deal with them. Once again, this is my opinion, but for certain, divination does not only mean foretelling the future. It means knowing the unknown that comes from a divine source. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to start going into specific Celtic practices that I have done and still currently do to level up my mind and get some better mental health. Before I go, though, I keep forgetting to ask everybody if you like the content I'm putting out in these podcasts. Um, I would love it if you would sign up for my email list. The link is below, or just go to MikeGuarneri.com and there'll be a little sign up form that can be added to my email list. And I have some great things coming down the road, and I hate if anyone missed them. So until tomorrow, everybody, have a good one.